There was a period in my life when I became extremely strict with money. Not just careful, but almost obsessive. I believed money was something fragile, something that could disappear at any moment if I wasn't being careful. And strangely, the more I tried to control money, the more careful I became with spending, the more money disappeared from my life. Years later, I realized something that completely changed how I understood the patterns shaping my reality. But back then, I had no idea. At the time, I was working in a very difficult job. My days were long. I worked 12 hours a day. Every day, I endured a long commute, crowded subways, packed platforms, endless exhaustion. At the office, things were not much better. There were office bullies, a boss whose mood could change without warning, management was inconsistent, and support was non existent. Every day felt like survival. And after all of that, after selling my time, my energy, my dignity, I still ended up with very little. I changed jobs, but the same situation persisted. I couldn't escape. That experience slowly planted a belief inside me, a quiet belief that I didn't even question at the time, that money is extremely hard to earn, that one has to suffer to get it, that one has to sacrifice time and well-being just to receive a small amount. Once that belief took root, my behavior began to change. I became very strict with money. I stopped spending on almost everything. I cut my own hair instead of going to a salon. I stopped buying clothes. Coffee was always made at home. I only allowed myself to buy basic necessities, nothing more. In my mind, I was being responsible, reasonable, and proactive. I believed I was doing the right thing. I thought if I controlled every dollar tightly enough, then I'd be able to escape the painful situation I was in. My dream at the time was simple: save as quickly as possible, retire as early as possible. Because work had become something unbearable. It was not just physical exhaustion, it was emotional, it was psychological, and I wanted out. But something strange began happening. No matter how frugal I became, no matter how tightly I held on to money, even though I moved back to my parents' home to save rent, money never accumulated. Situations completely outside of my control kept occurring. Something in the house would suddenly break, investments suddenly dropped in value, so I forced myself to become even stricter. And then something far more serious happened. Both of my parents were diagnosed with stage 4 cancer within several years. Suddenly, money was not just about savings anymore. It became about survival. Chemotherapy, surgery, immunotherapy, targeted therapy, radiation, we did them all. A single month's supply of targeted therapy alone cost over $8,000. $8,000 for a 30-day supply. On top of that, I lost my job. I couldn't get hired again for no apparent reasons. That was the moment I truly entered panic mode. I sold my condo. Within years, I ran out of all of my life savings after helping with the medical bills. Not only this, but I even watched opportunities to earn large amount of money slip right past me. At one point, I had stocks of 2 companies, about 10,000 each. I decided to sell one to cover expenses, only to see it rise in value and become 7 times of its original value in only 10 months, while the stock I kept decreased in value by 30%. That was painful. I felt guilty. That money could have kept my mother alive for 6 more months. It felt like the universe was conspiring to fuck me over and to tell me to just give it all up. No matter how hard I saved and held on to money, reality kept creating situations where money had to leave my life. I was trapped inside a pattern where I kept making the worst choices and missing the opportunities right in front of me. No matter how hard I visualized wealth, no matter how many times I did wealth affirmations, the pattern was unbreakable. When I hit absolute rock bottom and realized there was nothing more I could do, I began meditation, self-reflection. During meditation, I met someone, a younger version of me who had been quietly suffering for years. The inner child who felt sad when I told her that she could not quit her job, the one I told to stay because of money, the one who was very afraid but endured everything in silence, the one who felt disappointed when I told her that she could not go to a salon, grab a coffee, or get a new dress because of money, the one who wanted beautiful things, good food, to travel and see the world, but stayed silent and simply endured. I also saw beliefs that had been tormenting her all along. Money is hard to earn. Money is scarce. You have to save as much as you can because money could disappear at any moment. And I began to see how those beliefs had quietly shaped the reality around me. In meditation, I spoke to that part of myself. I told her that I was sorry. Sorry for forcing her to endure so much. Sorry for believing things that were never truly true. And I thanked her for holding on and surviving through everything. I told her that I loved her, that I will never leave her. Then slowly, those beliefs began to dissolve. The fear, the scarcity, the guilt of spending, and shame for not making enough, I released them all, one by one, and something inside me finally softened. I see many people try to change their lives with manifestation techniques. Visualization, robotic affirmations, SATs, different strategies. But the pattern continues, because the real cause is often hidden much deeper, in beliefs we rarely question. For years, even though I was visualizing wealth, I was holding on to every dollar, because deep down, I believed money was scarce, that it could disappear at any moment. And my life kept proving that belief to be true. Money kept disappearing, no matter how tightly I held on to it. But once that belief dissolved, magical shift. If you want a real change, look at your behavior, look at your current situations, look at your emotions. Become a quiet observer of all of them. They're the most honest reflections of what your subconscious mind truly believes. If those beliefs are not serving you, work on them to dissolve and release. And believe me when I tell you that this job is much more powerful than any manifestation technique out there.